an event that everyone knows, but that few people truly understand. On March 15th, 44 BC, Julius Caesar is assassinated. And in the collective imagination, people think, senators stab him, end of story. But no, because this murder, in reality, is a domino effect. Tiny details, decisions made under pressure, an unpredictable crowd, and an 18-year-old teenager whom everyone completely underestimates. First of all, you have to understand the context. We are at the end of a sequence of civil wars. Caesar has racked up victories, Pharsalus, Thapsus, Munda, and at that point, there is no real rival left capable of resisting him. Caesar accumulates powers. One point is crucial. We can say that he has three powers: religious power, as Pontifex Maximus, civil power, dictator for life, and military power, victorious general, with all the propaganda around Venus Victrix and victory. And that is the heart of the problem. In Rome, dictatorship exists, but normally it is temporary. 6 months for an emergency, no more. When you become dictator for life, you give the impression of something Rome has hated for 5 centuries, kingship. And precisely, one episode is going to set everything on fire. A few weeks before the assassination, during the Lupercalia, Mark Antony offers Caesar a diadem. Caesar refuses it. But it is too late. The rumor takes hold. He wants to be king, and what is fascinating is that Caesar is supposed to know perfectly well the Roman hostility toward the idea of a king. And yet, at this stage, he is so far above everything that even such a symbolic gesture becomes explosive. The result, a coalition forms. Not a united team, no. Rather a mixture of disappointed Caesarians who feel they were not politically recognized, former Pompeians, and men close to Cato's camp, the hardest-line Republicans. The common point? It is not, we all have the same vision of Rome. The common point is, we want him gone, and in the middle of all that, there is a name, a symbol, a guarantee: Brutus. Brutus is important for one simple reason. If Brutus takes part, the murder can be presented as a Republican act, almost heroic. Brutus is renowned for his integrity, and he even supposedly had a symbolic lineage. He was said to be descended from the Brutus who had expelled the kings from Rome. And here, an incredible detail. People push him to betray Caesar. There are graffiti, notes, messages. You are sleeping, Brutus. You are not Brutus. Imagine the psychological pressure. Your name is a monument, and people tell you, if you do nothing, you betray history. Except, they make a major mistake. The big problem with all of this, they have no follow-up. They think it is enough to kill Caesar, to proclaim Rome is free, and that everything will go back to normal. Yet, as Cicero would later say, it is a courageous act, but with the brain of a child. Because even dead, Caesar leaves behind a republican legality embodied by Mark Antony, consul, and armed force in the hands of Lepidus, master of the cavalry, with troops already positioned in strategic locations. So basically, the conspirators kill the man, but they do not destroy the system, and they leave the levers of power to those close to him. The day before his assassination, Caesar sleeps badly. Calpurnia, his wife, has a prophetic nightmare in which she sees Caesar completely covered in blood, and she begs him to stay. On the morning of March 15th, Caesar hesitates. The Senate has been waiting since dawn in the Curia of Pompey. Why the Curia of Pompey? Because the Curia of the Forum is under construction, and besides, it is a day of games near Pompey's theater. And here, it is strategic. In the Senate, no weapons, no massive military guard. The conspirators hide the blades in their togas or in the document holders of the time. Another detail worthy of a thriller. On the way, a Greek friend wants to warn Caesar, slips him a note informing him of his assassination. They are going to kill you. Caesar does not read it, and it is even said that he still had the note in his hand when the blows fell. The plot hangs by a thread. And yet, Caesar ends up coming. Inside the Curia, everything happens in quick succession. One conspirator, Trebonius, keeps Mark Antony aside so that he cannot intervene. The others surround Caesar, grab hold of him under the pretext of pleading a case. Then the daggers flash out. Caesar tries to defend himself. Then he sees Brutus. At that moment, he stops. He covers his face. According to tradition, he murmurs, "You too, my son." Caesar is struck 23 times. and he collapses at the foot of Pompey's statue. It is an irony almost too perfect. The victor falls near his old rival. At that moment, the Senate does not become a hall of victory. It becomes a hall of panic. The senators flee, the city learns the news, and the day descends into chaos. The conspirators go up to the Capitoline, barricade themselves, escorted by gladiators, and very quickly they understand that this is not a liberation. It is a void. And the real turning point comes on March 20th. Caesar's funeral turns into a riot. Mark Antony shows the blood-stained, slashed toga. The will is read, with gifts for the people, and the crowd is whipped into a frenzy by eloquence. The people improvise a pyre in the forum, pile up benches, tables, everything that burns. And the riot goes as far as horror. A tribune, Caius Helvius Cinna, is lynched and torn to pieces, because he is mistaken for a namesake associated with the murderers. At that point, it is over. The conspirators no longer have the city. They must flee. In the will, Caesar names as his heir his great-nephew Octavian, 18 years old, legally adopted. That is a crucial detail. At first, no one understands what that means. People see a frail teenager. No one imagines a future political monster. Except that a year and a half later, Octavian takes the name Caesar, obtains the consulship under pressure from the legions, has the murderers sentenced to death, and declares the Ides of March a day of parricide. In other words, by believing they were eliminating Caesar, they paved the way for Augustus. And that is the brutal lesson. The conspirators believed they were restoring the Republic. But removing Caesar does not destroy Caesarism. Worse, Rome will preserve Caesar's memory, to the point of deifying him. A comet appears during games held in his honor, interpreted as his soul ascending to the heavens. A temple is raised to the divine Julius, and this deification becomes a model for the emperors afterward. And a fascinating detail, on the very site of his death, an archaeological team identified an enormous masonry structure that may have been used to conceal, neutralize, the place of the sacrilege, because killing Caesar, Pontifex Maximus, in a consecrated Curia is a double sacrilege. So in the end, the murder intended to save the Republic becomes the murder that opens the door to the empire. Octavian, having become Caesar, would then become Emperor Augustus.